Dianne Feinstein, the oldest person in the Senate right now, just passed away. What does this mean for her legacy that she left California? Well, this means that it's going to continue to make California a worse place for everybody else involved, and it's going to make her look like a better person to the mainstream media because those very policies that made California so horrible and unlivable are the same exact policies that they love to celebrate. With all of that being said, we're going to be talking about her legacy and exactly who Gavin Newsom is going to implement in her place. With all of that being said, let's dig into the Demetrius Silver Joe Show.
Facts over tracks, isn't that spitting slow, spitting fast? I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
Okay, so starting right off, we actually have the legacy that Dianne Feinstein left California, and it's crap and crime. This is from the Federalist. With the passing of longtime Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat from California, on Friday, colleagues from across the political aisle have released a bevy of statements remembering the Golden State's Golden Gal. While President Joe Biden described Feinstein as a, quote, kind and loyal friend, Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, categorized the California Democrat as a, quote, true public servant, with whom he had a wonderful working relationship and will miss. Other Democrats and Republican senators such as Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, Susan Collins, Republican from Maine, and Marco Rubio, Republican from Florida, also offered their condolences and fond memories of Feinstein. And it's actually funny because even George Washington has memories with Dianne Feinstein. It's beautiful to see so many offer thoughts and prayers to Feinstein's relatives and friends during their time of grieving. Losing a loved one is a tragedy for any family to endure. But is it too much to ask the mainstream media to stop treating Feinstein's political career as anything but a complete disaster? Sure, she's had some nice moments, like dunking on smartly little climate activists, but those flashes of fun pale in comparison to the ruin Feinstein left in her wake as California's senior senator. In the 30 years Feinstein served in the United States Senate, California has descended into a total dumpster fire, with the state bearing all the hallmarks of a third world country. Take a trip to California today, and you'll find that the only thing, quote, golden about the Golden State is the urine from the homeless people littering the sidewalks, alongside their feces, of course. Despite being the wealthiest state in the nation, California boasts the highest homeless rate among United States states, only to be outdone by the District of Columbia. Crime has also become a major problem. A report released by California's Attorney General's office earlier this year, for example, found that from 2021 to 2022, violent crime and property crime in the state has jumped from 6.1% to and 6.2% respectively. Meanwhile, the state's homicide rate skyrocketed 23.9% from 2017 to 2022, according to the Pacific Research Institute. Despite regime-approved media's attempt to cast her as a centralist, Feinstein sported a far-left voting record while serving as senator, voting in line with Biden's opposition 100% of the time. Her support for massive spending bills has undoubtedly played a role in increasing the United States national debt and spiking inflation, leading to more suffering among Californians and the American people writ large. Of course, Feinstein isn't only to blame for California's decay. Democrat governors Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom, local leftist mayors, and California Democrat voters deserve just as much credit for furthering the state's rapid decline. It's completely understandable for Feinstein's colleagues to mourn her passing, and they should, but for corporate press outlets to hype her legacy as a tremendous success is to demand Republicans and Americans more broadly ignore the wasteland that California has become during her time in office. What was once a place people from across the country flocked in to order to chase their dreams has developed into an archaic state of ruins where residents can't get out fast enough. Dianne Feinstein did leave behind a legacy. It's just not the kind that the left believes it to be. And I completely agree. Dianne Feinstein passes laws and legislation to actually make this state worse. That's exactly why we're seeing all of the crime and everything else that we talked about in this article in California today, because Dianne Feinstein has been there since California was first founded. So, I mean, she's to blame over here. She was actually in the Senate when the United States actually purchased California and made it a part of the United States. So it's a long time ago. Gavin Newsom, and this is the next article, since Dianne Feinstein has passed away, this means that Gavin Newsom can actually appoint a replacement for her. So Gavin Newsom just selected a replacement for Dianne Feinstein. So California Governor Gavin Newsom will reportedly appoint LaFonza Butler, the president of the far-left Emily's List, to replace Senator Dianne Feinstein in the United States Senate after Feinstein passed away last week. Politico broke the news on Sunday evening, which comes after Feinstein died Thursday night at 90 years old, noting that the appointment comes without putting limitations or preconditions on his pick running for the seat in 2024. This means that Butler can join the existing field of considerators for the party's nominee in 2024. The current contenders for the 2024 include Democrat Reps Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, and Barbara Lee. Various reports published on Sunday before Newsom's selection was revealed indicated that Feinstein's replacement was expected to swarm in this week. This means that California will not only get a black woman senator, but also its first openly lesbian senator. Of course. So now we're not going to be judging people on their ability to actually get the job done and to make America great again, and not only make America great again, but also get things done for California. Now, we're not going to be focusing on that. No, she's lesbian and she's black. Don't we love it? Oh, California's going to eat that right up. Journalists online noted that Butler listed her state as residence on her X account as Maryland. FEC filings from Emily's record LaFonza Butler's residence as Silver Springs, Maryland, as recently as 31 days ago, said FEC analyst Bob Pyers. FPPC and FEC filings indicate that soon-to-be California Senator LaFonza Butler has not been a resident of the state for over 2 years. Pyers noted that Emily's List was already cleaning up their website to hide where Butler allegedly lives. The organization removed the following line from their website. Quote, she lived in Maryland with her partner, Leniki Lee, and their daughter, Lina. Emily's List is a political action committee that helps elect pro-abortion activists to political offices across the country. Now, this is to be expected. I mean, obviously, Governor Newsom is going to elect people that actually going to push his political agenda because he's going to continue his legacy. If he doesn't do that, he's stupid. This is exactly what Republicans need to do to actually get things done that we want. Okay, we can't just sit here and say, oh no, we're not going to get anything done because this is going to take too much power. No, we need to sit here and be strong, and we need to say, no, this is exactly what the Democrats are doing. This is exactly what we are doing. Okay? That's how it works. Now, moving into the next article, we actually have a Federalist article. We have these House Republicans voted to fund CISA's criminal censorship and election interference. Anyone who votes to fund an unconstitutional agency that works to repel the First Amendment does not deserve to hold office. On Wednesday night, 109 Republicans voted against an amendment proposed by Rep. Andrew Clyde, Republican from California, Georgia, that would strip the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency of 25% of its funding. CISA, a subsidiary of the Department of Homeland Security, has made a habit of censoring the American public and interfering in our elections by policing speech. According to the federal lawmakers, CISA is the nerve center of federal government censorship. CISA's intended purpose is to prevent cyber attacks and to defend the physical infrastructure of the country, beginning in its run-up to the 2020 election. However, the agency pivoted its focus from foreign threats to domestic spreaders of so-called mis- or disinformation, code words for information deemed inconvenient to the state. CISA mind control. Is it true, in truth, Orwellian fashion, CISA officials use illegal powers to suppress information that they know to be true in order to preserve government narratives and to control the minds of the American public. In addition to addressing mis and disinformation. CISA directs the censorship of malinformation, defined by the agency as information based on fact, but used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate. In other words, malinformation is factual information that is objectively not because it is false or untrue, because it is provided without adequate context. Context, as determined by the government, explained lawmakers on the House Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. The agency justifies censoring truth because it claims to be protecting the American public's cognitive infrastructure. In the lead up to the 2020 election, CISA began treating speech crucial of the American institutions as a threat to said institutions and the infrastructure of the country. Former CISA Director Chris Krebs, who served during the 2020 election cycle, cracked down on speech that called into question the integrity of the election by deeming it a threat to that very election infrastructure. Today, current CISA Director Jen Esternelli has expanded the agency's efforts of securing institutional infrastructure to securing cognitive infrastructure. Or put directly, our minds, according to Esterly, Americans' cognitive infrastructure is the most critical infrastructure, the state must protect. What Esterly really means, though, is not that the American public mind is crucial to protect, but that the public's minds are crucial to control. Meeting with tech giants, Missouri v. Biden revealed that ahead of the 2020 election, CISA agents facilitated meetings between big tech companies and national security and law enforcement agencies to address mis and disinformation and malinformation on social media platforms. As the election drew closer, CISA increased the frequency of these meetings. During their meetings, CISA warned tech companies of potential foreign hack and leak operations that would threaten the integrity of the 2020 election. The valid Hunter Biden laptop story was subsequently censored because it falsely portrayed it as a hack and leak operation. Polls after the 2020 election indicate that had the Hunter Biden story not been suppressed, Joe Biden might not have won the 2020 election. And I completely agree. The media always does this. It's so annoying. Many of these posts included tweets that called into question the integrity of the 2020 election. On CISA particularly targeted citizens who criticized mass mail-in balloting for not being secure and for being disappropriately implemented to favor Democrats. Two things that are undoubtedly true. Indeed, in this May testimony to the House Homeland Security Subcommittee on Oversight, Federalist senior contributor Benjamin Weingarten detailed how CISA called for swift removal of posts and continued monitoring a user's account because said users had claimed that mail-in voting is insecure and that conspiracy theories about election fraud are hard to discount. Outsourcing censorship. CISA collaborates with non-governmental censorship organizations to outsource its speech and circumvent the First Amendment. For example, the Election Integrity Partnership (EIP) and private anti-disinformation organization was conceived by and created in consultation with the CISA officials in the run-up to the 2020 election. Explained Weingarten, EIP's goal was to fill the crucial gap created by the Constitution's limit on government agencies censoring election and misinformation, arranging from domestic sources within the United States. The lack of authority may have included both an inability for government agencies to access social media platform data, as EIP did, as well as very, very real First Amendment questions, Weingarten noted. EIP lobbied tech companies to establish more oppressive content moderation policies. It flagged offending content and even entire narratives the organization deemed harmful. Ultimately, the EIP was created to suppress speech dubious of unprecedented election given the sweeping pandemic-driven changes made to the voting system that cycle, whereby the razor-thin final results in key states did not materialize 4 days, Weingarten concluded. The EIP also had several partner organizations, one of which is Graphica, a Manhattan-based tech firm, revealed by the Mint Press investigative report to have been at the forefront of the establishment attack as an alternative media. Graphica has produced reports labeling outlets as that are crucial of the federal government as Russian, Chinese, or Iranian influence operations on American social media. Essentially, Graphica exists to produce propaganda for the federal government's propaganda, such as the deep state lie that Donald Trump's campaign was infested with Russian agents and promoted by the Russian government. The CISA must be defunded. CISA is an affront to the Constitution. It is a criminal organization that, along with the entire post 9/11 surveillance apparatus, has no right to exist in the United States of America. Reducing CIA's budget by 25% is the least Republican members of Congress can do to address the widely abusive and unconstitutional agency. Even for selfish reasons, Republicans should be motivated to eradicate CISA. The agency interfered in the 2020 election to hurt Republicans in its censorship operations post-2020 and inhibiting efforts to fix the problems that plagued the last election cycle. This means that so long as CISA is in operation, the integrity of the 2024 election is in grave jeopardy. Perhaps, however, like CISA and its supporters in the Democratic Party, Republican members of Congress did not think that the American people can discern for themselves what is and what is not true. It's possible that these 109 representatives do not care about the oath that they took upon entering office to defend the Constitution, and agree with CISA that the federal agency must protect our minds. As that saying goes, with friends like these, who needs enemies? The Republicans who voted to fund the unlawful cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency so they just list off all of the 100 people. So, these people, I don't think they know any better. I think they're just sitting here saying, oh, well, this helped us post 9/11, so we need this. No, we don't need this. I think they just need to reconsider their vote. This was on September 30th, so I don't know if they can take back their vote within the next 3 days, or within 3 days. So I would repel my vote and say, I did not know the facts about this, and now I do. I will repel my vote, and I do want to vote against this now. That's what I would do if I was them. But, I'm not them, so I would say, listen, do this. That's all I can say. Now, with that being said, we're going to be moving into the next article. We actually have a Federalist article. We have 3 facts to arm yourself against the global elite's biggest climate crisis lies. So, climate-related deaths are down 99% worldwide over the past 100 years, thanks largely to fossil fuels, capitalism, and human innovation. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres declared that humanity has opened the gates of hell during his opening remarks as the Climate Ambition Summit in New York on September 20th. The event followed 2 days of meetings attended by global elites. Scientists and experts have been making catastrophic climate predictions like these for decades, often relying on flawed models endorsed by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which has been constantly proven wrong. Horrendous heat is having horrendous effect. This saw farmers watching crops carried away by floods, sweltering temperatures spawning disease, and thousands fleeing in fear as historic fires rage. The United Nations chief continued pinning the blame on fossil fuels. In another bizarre moment, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky apparently figured now would be a good time to leave his war-torn country and embark on a trip halfway around the world to lecture Americans about reducing their carbon emissions. Zelensky said that, quote, humanity is failing to its climate policy objectives as he addressed the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. This means that extreme weather will still impact the normal global life in some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes, which means nothing at all. All he's doing is actually repeating the Democratic side because he just wants more funding. He wants more money so he could just go to Paris, like he said before, This is the only reason why he's going there in the very first place. If he did not need the money, he would not come, and he would not say any of these things that mean absolutely nothing. They're gonna weaponize the weather. How does that even happen? I'm not Mother Nature. I'm not gonna just throw a tornado at you. Like, what does that even mean? That doesn't make any sense. An extraordinary threat causing anxiety. President Joe Biden also took at the podium at the United Nations, where he called for increased public and private sector investment in green energy solutions to help climate proof the world, adding that his administration has treated this crisis as an external threat from the government. We took office not only for us, but for all of humanity. Meanwhile, the Vice President Kamala Harris told an audience in Pennsylvania that young people were experiencing something called climate anxiety. They are questioning whether it makes sense for you to even think about having children, whether it makes sense for you to think about aspiring to buy a home, because what will this climate be? What Harris didn't mention is that a study published earlier this year found that those who are most worried about climate change tend to know the least about it. According to the findings, people who know more about the environment in general and about climate change in particular are less anxious about climate change. If Harris and others like her were actually concerned about so-called climate anxiety and its effects on the generation of young Americans, they would stop with the unreasonable rhetoric immediately. They would stop using fear-mongering and alarmism as a means to gain even more political power for themselves. They might even consider doing what of all of the people billionaire Bill Gates did recently: tell the truth. There is a lot of climate aggravation, Gates noted during an interview at the Earthshot Prize Innovation Summit last week. He went on to say that climate is not the end of the planet, so the planet is going to be fine. Despite the barrage of apocalyptic messages and relentless lying from the global elites, here are 3 quick facts you should know about the climate. Number 1, wildfire rates have declined since 2001. As smoke from Canadian wildfires blanketed parts of the United States this summer, Biden wasted no time politicizing the issue. He told Americans, without offering a shred of evidence, that the fires were a stark reminder of the impacts of climate change. Even the IPCC has refused to positively link wildfires to climate change. In a tweet that garnered more than 1.3 million views back in June, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made the same claim. Year after year, with climate change, we're seeing more and more intensive wildfires, he said. This is patently false. In reality, the data show that global wildfires are burning at their lowest rate in decades. Hurricanes are becoming less frequent. A recent New York Times headline equipped DeSantis leading a state monarched by climate change shrugs off the threat. The article attempts to paint Florida Republican governor as a so-called climate denier. Hurricanes are becoming less frequent. A recent New York Times headline equipped DeSantis leading a state menaced by climate change shrugs off the threat. The article attempts to paint Florida Republican governor as a so-called climate denier. The authors wrote that scientists say that hurricanes battering his state are intensified by man-made global warming. Tellingly, the authors didn't mention which scientists. Perhaps they didn't say because both severity of and frequently of landfall hurricanes in the United States are actually decreasing slightly, not increasing, according to more than a century of reliable data. Number 3, climate-related deaths are down. Deaths and destruction are always on the horizon for climate alarmists, or so we're told. Rep. AOC, Democrat from New York, famously predicted the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. Activist Greta Thunberg tweeted in 2018 that climate change will wipe out all of humanity within the next 5 years. Perhaps the single most important fact to keep in mind when it comes to the doomsday climate cult is this one. Climate-related deaths are down 99% worldwide over the past 100 years, thanks to to fossil fuels, capitalism, and human innovation. That's exactly why they want to stop all those things, because they hate humans so much that they just want all of us to just stop. They want us to stop producing people. They want us to stop producing things. They want us to stop innovating. Okay? That's exactly why they hate us so much in America. With that being said, we're going to be digging into the next segment, which is the media's takes.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
So we're starting off with a CNN article. We have Trump fraud trial begins in New York on Monday. What to know? Former President Donald Trump will be in attendance on Monday in New York courtroom for the start of the civil fraud trial against him, his oldest sons, their companies, and the Trump administration executives. Opening statements in the trial over inflated assets and fraudulent financial statements come in less than a week after the shocking ruling by Judge Arthur Energon that found that Trump and his co-defendants are liable for present and repeated fraud. The ruling was a significant victory for the New York Attorney General Letitia James, who brought the $250 million lawsuit last September, alleging that Trump and his co-defendants committed repeated fraud and inflating assets on the financial statements to get better terms on the commercial real estate loans and insurance policies. Okay, so we already talked about this a few days ago, but the thing is that if Trump did artificially inflate his own assets, he needs to pay more taxes on it. And because of the fact that he needs to pay more taxes on it, he needs to pay more insurance for it because it's worth more. Just like if Mar-a-Lago was actually not worth than $680 million that he said it was, which I have no reason not to believe him, because something that is half the size, not even half the size of Mar-a-Lago, not even next to the water, is in the triple digits in the millions. So I would say like $110 million for something that's 1/30th of the size, not even in front of the water. Never mind looking at a house on the water with one side on the water. Mar-a-Lago is surrounded by water on three sides. On top of it being a mega mansion, on top of it having a bunch of bathrooms, on top of it having all of these amenities, it's going to be in more than 300 million, 400 million. It's going to be up there in that much money. So him saying it's $1 billion, and an independent person actually looked at his residency and said that it was in the billions of dollars. So I don't know what these people are really talking about. If he does have more of a mansion, or let's just say he has less of a mansion, he's not FU money rich. He's more of a rich man. So it's like he's still rich no matter what. Like he still has his house. He still affords the house, number one. Number two, if it's not as much value as what we thought it was, it's still a mega mansion. So what is this supposed to do? So this isn't really giving any street cred to the judge. We already know that his house is an awesome house. It's really beautiful. So what is this actually trying to prove here? It's just trying to get him on the $200 million lawsuit, $250 million lawsuit, kind of like the Stephen Avery case. Like, oh, because I'm suing you, you are doing a bunch of things that are bad. No, listen, not just because you're suing somebody does not mean that they're necessarily doing something bad. You're just suing them to find out. That's exactly what I think that the judge is trying to do. I mean, if this was a perfect world, I think that the judge is corrupt as hell. So probably she's doing it because of the fact that she's just like, no, or he's just doing it because of the fact they're like, nope, you're guilty. I'm going to prove that you're guilty. And you have to prove that you're innocent. Like as if this is a third world country or something like that. But with that being said, we do have another CNN article to get to. Fact check. Republicans make false, misleading claims at the first Biden impeachment inquiry hearing. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee is holding its first hearing on Thursday in the impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden. And the Republicans are on the committee have made a series of false and misleading claims, as well as some other claims that have left out crucial context. Below is a CNN fact check. The article will be updated as additional facts checks are completed. Republicans have presented no evidence Biden himself received foreign money. Okay, so they keep moving the goalpost on this one. This is what really annoys me. So at first they said, no, Nope, Joe Biden was never in any sort of business with Hunter Biden at all, okay? And then they moved the goalpost and they said, well, I guess he was on the phone a little bit with the Russian leaders and the Ukrainian leaders that Hunter Biden was working with, I guess. And in the third post that they said, well, I mean, of course, he was in business with him because of the fact that he cared about him, okay? He was there for his son. And then the fourth goalpost is like, okay, but he's his dad. Okay, what do you want him to be, a bad dad and not be there for his son, Hunter? That's the fourth goalpost. And number 5, you don't prove that he actually got the money himself, okay? No money had his name all over it. Okay, because he's not stupid. Okay, he may be dumb, but he's not stupid. He knows that he's going to get the money no matter how it comes out. So if it may be that Hunter Biden gets the money, and then Joe Biden's like, son, since I got you that deal, you're going to buy me a car. And then Hunter Biden's like, okay, no problem. And then Joe Biden's like, okay, next month, instead of the car, what you're going to do is just pay my bills. And then Hunter Biden's like, no problem. Because of the fact that Joe Biden is the one that's making Hunter Biden so much money, Hunter Biden, the least that he can do is pay his dad's bills or buy him a car. So, I mean, this is exactly what happens here. Republican Rep. James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, said that in his opening remarks at the hearing on Thursday, that the committee has uncovered how the Bidens and their associates created over 20 shell companies and raked in $20 million between 2014 and 2019. The $20 million figure is roughly accurate for Joe Biden's family and associates, according to the bank records subpoenaed by this committee. Okay, so this is exactly what we're talking about. This is the information that is true but is missing context. Yes, all of this is true, but the phrase "the Bidens and their associates" obscures the fact that there is no public evidence to date that President Joe Biden himself received any of the money. Okay, yeah, but like we just said, this is not how family works. You just say, okay, well, since you made me some more money, then I'm going to pay your bills this month, or I'm going to buy you a car. This is exactly what happens. So none of the bank records obtained by the subcommittee has shown any payments to Joe Biden, of course, because they're not stupid. And the Washington Post, an analyst in August, found that of about $23 million in payments the subcommittee has identified from foreign sources, nearly $7.5 million went to members of the Biden family. Almost all of it. Hunter Biden and the rest of the people at Hunter Biden did business with. The Post also questioned the use of vague phrase shell companies, noting that virtually all the companies had been listed by the subcommittee at the time legitimate business interests and clearly identified business investments. Okay, but just because of the fact that you have a business does not mean that you're not also using that business for money laundering. Just like if you have a laundromat, you're not going to just use that money that you're getting from the laundromat for the laundromat business. You're going to take outside money, bring that into the business, and then you're going to say, okay, this is exactly where the money came from, and then you're going to just deposit that wherever you need it to be. That's how you can money launder. It's so simple. Jim Jordan falsely claims Hunter Biden said that he was unqualified for a Burisma board. Okay, but he actually did, though. Republican Rep. Jim Jordan of Ohio repeated a false claim that Hunter Biden that CNN debunked when Jordan made the same claim last week. Jordan claimed that Hunter Biden himself said that he was unqualified to sit on the board of directors of the Ukrainian company Burisma Holdings. Hunter Biden is not qualified, fact number 2, to sit on the board. Not my words, his words. He said that he got on the board because of his brand, because of his name. Jordan said Thursday. That is not true that Hunter Biden himself said that he was not qualified to sit on the Burisma board. In fact, Hunter Biden said in a 2019 interview with ABC News that I was completely qualified to be on the board, and defended his qualifications to detail. Okay, so that's what he's saying to ABC News. Biden has served on the board chair. Okay, so just because of the fact that he did not tell ABC News specifically does not mean that this is exactly what he thinks behind the scenes. He can say one thing on the WhatsApp messages and then say another thing to ABC News and the interviewer, of course. Jordan's misleading claim about the Justice Department. Jordan cited new documents obtained by the IRS whistleblowers made made public by House Republicans on Wednesday to argue that the Justice Department improperly blocked investigators from asking about Joe Biden and the 2020 search warrant related to Hunter Biden's overseas dealings. We learned yesterday in a search warrant examining Hunter Biden electronic communications that they weren't allowed to ask about political figure number one. Jordan said that political figure number one is the big guy, is Joe Biden. This is highly misleading. Okay, so this is another one that is true, but it's misleading. The Justice Department official who gave this instruction said that Joe Biden's name should not be mentioned in the search warrant because that wasn't any legal basis to do so. Okay, so he's right then. Furthermore, this occurred during the Trump presidency, so it doesn't prove pro-Biden meddling by the Biden-era Justice Department. Okay, but like we just said, we did not say that. All he said was, we learned yesterday in a search warrant explaining Hunter Biden's electronic communications they weren't allowed to ask about political figure number one. Jordan said political figure number one is the big guy, is Joe Biden. So what are you talking about? Just because of the fact that some certain person elected that person does not mean that they're to blame for all of the stupid choices that the judge makes. It does not make any sense. You can appoint somebody and then they can change course on you and then start acting like a bad judge. That's not a rip on Trump, as they like to think over here, I guess. Key content around wire transfers to Hunter Biden. Comer said this morning in the opening acts that the committee recently uncovered 2 additional wires sent to Hunter Biden that originally originated in Beijing from Chinese nationals. This happened when Joe Biden was running for president of the United States and Joe Biden's home was listed as a beneficiary address. This lacks important context. Okay, so it's true, but it's missing context. Comer was correct that the subcommittee has found evidence of 2 wire transfers sent to Hunter Biden from Chinese officials in the second half of 2019. Okay, so this was during the presidential campaign, but he did not explain that Joe Biden's home being listed as a beneficiary address does not demonstrate that Joe Biden received any of the money. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You need to show where the money is going. You need to show, okay, so what is your address? Okay, that's your address. Okay, so what's your bank account information? This is your bank account information. Hunter Biden has lived at his father's Wellington, Delaware homes at times and listed the address on his driver's license. Okay, so how can you prove that just because Hunter Biden got it, Joe Biden is not going to benefit from that money? You can't prove that. Mace's false claims about a supposed bribe. Republican Rep. Nancy Mace of South Carolina claimed that on Thursday morning, we already know the president took bribes from Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company where Hunter Biden sat on the board of directors. Macy's claim is right, but some of it is false. This is what they say. We do not already know that Joe Biden took any bribe. The claim about a bribe from Burisma is completely unproven allegation. The FBI informant who relayed the claim to the FBI in 2020 was merely reporting something that he had been told by the Burisma chief executive. Later in the hearing, a witness called by the committee Republicans George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley called the bribery allegation the most concerning piece of evidence that we had heard today, but he immediately cautioned that you have to only take that so far, giving the second-hand account. Okay, but Joe Biden said it himself. Joe Biden actually said that another country wanted him to fire somebody. He said that his own country in the United States wanted him to fire a prosecutor abroad. He told that country he will reserve funding if that prosecutor is not fired. And you know what he said after that? That son of a bitch, he was fired. He said this in his own words. So how are you not going to say that he did not take bribes to do political dealings outside of the country? And yes, it could be the Burisma because he was investigating Burisma. It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. Oh, God. These CNN fact checks are not fact check true. Burchett on Hunter Biden's taxes. Rep. Tim Burchett, a Tennessee Republican, falsely claimed that Hunter Biden never paid taxes on his foreign income. He said that Hunter Biden failed to pay taxes on millions of dollars he got from Ukrainian companies, and that shows that how the Biden family doesn't have to pay taxes. Who's going to write the check for the money Hunter Biden didn't pay? Burchett asked, adding the hardworking Americans would end up footing the bill. Okay, so they say that this is false, but why is it that Joe Biden is paying so much money in taxes this year because of the fact that he didn't pay taxes last year, or the year before that, or the year before that? Or not Joe Biden, but Hunter Biden. But Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are in business together. That's what I'm saying. Joe Biden uses his political career to further Hunter Biden's political career. They work together here. But with that being said, I mean, I'm already done with this article. I mean, this is just so stupid. They're sitting here fact checking, but their fact checks are not true because it's CNN politics. It's CNN. They play these games that they pretend as if they're fact checking, but they're really not. They're making up opinions that are not true whatsoever. But with that being said, we're going to sum up this video here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for enjoying. And if you did like this episode, please like, subscribe, and down below, because I do post new episodes of the show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And new episodes are coming out, like reactions are in Sunday. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.